between something that will minimize death and something that will increase it, he is always gonna choose the increase. Not because it really reflects anything about his ideology, except that he wants to be president and he knows what the base is like. And the base does not want to see you caring about COVID deaths. So he's not gonna go in that direction.
I really
super
hope.
Fast.
Super fast. We need a BLM march in Florida, and it's gonna be a cough-in, no masks, all vax, but we cough all over police. Well, it'll be a cough-in, and we'll see if that leads to anything. Just like, whose streets? Our streets, like that kind of thing.
Okay, I'm gonna read one or two comments while we get ready for, let's do the G block. I think we can do that relatively fast. We only have a few minutes, is that okay? Okay, I'm gonna read a comment. Let's see, Global Astro says, worst candy, the old toothpaste tube style Ghostbusters Slimer bubble gun. I don't even know what that is, but that sounds terrible. Although I did watch Ghostbusters 2 this last weekend and it was quite good. Let's see, Kamo gifted a tier 1 sub, thank you for that. April Fools hit 7 months. Let's see, E Wood hit 9, thank you. Okay, with that, let's jump into this video. We only have a few minutes.
H.
That is devastating video that I hope by now you've already seen. I hope that over the past few days, the past week or so, that has been burned into everyone's memory. Shantel Arnold there being assaulted by a police officer. We wanna give you an update on that story that we've talked about. I know on Indisputable, they've been talking about it. And here's the update. You're gonna be shocked to find out that the police officer that did that has had previous issues with excessive force. He's a 16-year veteran of the sheriff's office, Julio Alvarado, been named in the most excessive force suits out of any of the department's other current deputies. He is the most apparently prone to violence. Notice that they don't say the only one who's faced these sorts of things, he's just the worst. He's been named in 9 federal civil rights lawsuits, all involving the use of excessive force. 2 suits were settled, one of them involving the beating of a 14-year-old boy, and 2 are pending with the remaining dismissed. So back in 2016, the one with the boy, he grabbed this boy by the neck and slammed his head against the ground in concrete as the child was screaming, "Why are you doing this to me?" Alvarado then threatened to have the boy and his family deported. 2 years later, a lawsuit claimed that Alvarado and 3 deputies beat Atner Casco, a Honduran native, and stole more than $2,000 from him at a traffic stop, then conspired to have him deported. That suit was settled on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving last year for $50,000. He was demoted last year from sergeant to deputy. They didn't say why, but he was demoted, probably for one of these horrendous things that he did to the people that live in his area. And so that was the individual, taking a woman by her hair, by her braids, literally ripping her braids out of her head and slamming her down. How could anyone have seen it coming with this guy? You just had to keep him on.
I'm sorry, the sheriff's department in Los Angeles needs to be abolished straight up. I mean, I know we've covered this, we've talked about this. There are gangs in the sheriff's department. They laud one another, they celebrate the violence. The more violence, the better. The entire thing needs to be completely eradicated, okay? The head of the sheriff's department, Alex Villanueva, knows about this. He's been knowing about the gangs. There has been no reform. It is beyond reform, okay? They serve no purpose anymore other than to terrorize communities and especially Black and Latino communities.
Yeah. And in this case, he did the same thing that he did to someone else. So is he responsible? Yes, he's responsible. His bosses that continued setting him out in the streets after he did it to the boy, also responsible. And when they keep him on after this, they should be held responsible for the next person that he goes and brutalizes, because that is obviously his MO. He's gonna keep doing as long as you allow him. And as you're pointing out, this department is perfectly fine with allowing that to continue happening. I mean, we'll have more in the future. I apologize, we are out of time. Thank you everyone for sticking with us with the tech problems that we had. We will be filming our top 10 list in just a little bit. Francesca, it's great to have you back. Thank you for being back with us.
Thank you.
Everyone check out the Twitchation room on Wednesday. We'll have more details for you, but we gotta run. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome, it's indisputable, good to be with you. We got a lot of show today, a lot on the agenda. Rick Green will join me for the debate segment, the bullpen, founder of PatriotAcademy.com, and also a big time gun guy. We will talk about guns, and the Second Amendment of the Constitution. It seems as if he thinks that I'm wrong about the Second Amendment. Also, breaking down news of the day, Michael Schur, reporter, TYT contributor, and all around great guy. Let me bring you to my top story of the day. There's an assistant principal caught assaulting a student, okay? This was in North Carolina. Let's put up a picture of the assistant principal. This pisses me off. Okay, these are children. An assistant principal at a North Carolina middle school who has since resigned said he looks, and I quote, forward to sharing my side of the story after a Facebook video showed him in a wheelchair grabbing and shoving a student to a classroom floor. Christopher McNeil is his name. Moments earlier, he threatened the student in a Knox Middle School classroom. According to the video obtained by Charlotte Observer, you keep cracking your knuckles, McNeil tells the boy. You do what you do because when you hit me, I'm going to beat the piss out of you. I'm telling you now, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hands on you. Let's show a screenshot of the kid without his face. You see, this is a real kid. This is a child, okay? We're talking about elementary students. I mean, a small kid. Then he decides to take the kid down. The kid walks up to him. The kid was angry. But this is what he does next. Let's show the next screenshot. He takes the kid to the ground, okay? The kid is struggling. The kid is trying to get up. Let's go to the next screenshot. He is totally dominating this very small child. I don't care what the argument is inside of the classroom. And I have done my fair share of teaching inside of classrooms. I don't care what the argument is, this is a child. The physical assault is criminal. Now, let me take you to some of the words that were spoken, additional words. In the video, this assistant principal, a person in leadership, continues to threaten the student, saying, and I quote, I'm going to get up. Listen, man, I will beat the ish out of you. I'm going to wait for you to get up, and when you hit me, I'm going to lose my job, and they're going to call the police. Those words were prophetic. McNeil resigned on October 12th. Rowan Salisbury School's officials said in a statement, adding that the safety of all students and staff is the highest priority. Now, I will say this. I watched this video. It was sad, uncalled for, unnecessary, and criminal. But there were teachers around him that allowed this to happen. They said nothing. They did not stand up for this student. You have to be willing to engage in an honest conversation about what we're doing inside of these classrooms. There is no word that a kid can say to an adult that should cause an adult to treat the kid like that. That's not your child. And even if it was your child, that was going too damn far. McNeil worked at the school since June 2016, according to the district website. He worked in the district since 2005, district-wide, including as a math teacher and principal intern, and later as assistant principal of that high school in the Knox Middle School. In his statement to the media, McNeil said, the full story of what happened in the classroom that day has not been told. He said he is seeking legal advice and hopes to respond soon in person to the media about what transpired. Okay, Michael, what are your thoughts here? You're on mute, brother.
Sorry, this is my first time ever doing this. My thoughts are absolutely that this is sickening, and I guess the silver lining is that there are cameras that show us how sickening this is. And again, as we've said before many times, and on this show, the saving grace is that this stuff gets recorded now. But here's the thing: like he said, we haven't heard my side of the story. There's not one fiction that I have created in my head since reading this and seeing this that would explain what he did. There's nothing that kid could have done short of maybe charging him with a knife or a weapon that would have manifested that kind of behavior. And that's what I'm getting at, is that there's no, like he's saying, oh, wait till you hear my side of the story. He's an educator. And an educator does not do what he just did. There's no side of the story that would sort of get him off of this, and that's what confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah, and I actually called my mom. My mother is still a public school educator, and I said, look at this video, and I want you to give me your honest assessment. She called me back. She said, son, it's criminal. Now, my mother adopted me. Okay, she was a high school teacher then. She is a school teacher today. And she has had to deal with some chaotic situations in the public school building. All right, things happen, tempers flare. But what the educator did in this case, a principal went too far. All right, let me bring your attention to, I don't know how to say it other than believability, okay? There's a guy, a black male getting arrested. He's the victim of a crime. All of the cops who are arresting him, white male officers, he's trying to tell them, I'm a victim. Nobody believes him until others speak up. Here's the video.
People going after him. I saw that. Yes. I saw that. There were people going after you, and the cops went after you and not the other white guys. I saw that. You were the one that was being accosted. There was a couple white guys over there that were going after him. They got out of his vehicle and he was trying to back away. Oh, one of these cops actually believed the white guy when they said this guy was the one in the wrong. That's what happened.
Okay, well, you're not going to contribute positively.
I don't give. Yeah, why didn't you pull over the other guys that were part of it? We're done. Okay, good.
Can we come over here so I can figure out what happened?
Exactly what she said happened.
We're done.
I told you what happened. I told you what happened. This guy was accosted by other people, and he was the one that was pulled.
This is a perfect example of how personal bias translates into systemic oppression. The policing agency, they are a system. They're an industry. They are an institution. The reason why they treated this black man so is because they did not believe his story. Did you see the look of relief on his face when he said exactly, that's what I've been trying to tell them? They were not going to listen to him. If it had not been for those individuals who were willing to speak up, he would have taken a ride to jail that night and no telling what would have happened to him, because he would have continued to say, you have the wrong man. This is unlawful. This is not justified. According to the narrative, they let the actual criminals go, the white males who assaulted him or attempted to. Let me give you some background to this story. TikTok user is being praised for her actions in a viral video that showed her sticking up for a black man who'd apparently been wrongfully detained by police, prompting the officers to let him go. At the start of the video, The woman approaches the officers who had detained the black man and tells them that they're mistaken, and if they believe that he did anything wrong. You see the relief on the man's face. Thank you, that's what I'm saying, the black man responds, visibly relieved. She then explains that the black man they are detaining was apparently the victim in a dispute rather than the perpetrator. Wow. There were people going after you and the cops went after you and not the other white guys, the woman says. I saw that ish. The woman who goes by Delayed Rose on TikTok said in a follow-up video that she's not white, but indigenous. The woman also said that one of the officers would not listen to her because she was calling it like it was, saying he would only listen to her white partner. The cop that refused to listen to me and would only listen to my partner claimed he was offended because his wife was black, so he can't be racist. I'm so sick and damn tired of people saying stuff like that. All right, that's the equivalent of what racist people back in the day used to say, oh, I gave money to some black person. I gave money to some black charity. I can't be racist. None of my black friends say I'm racist. Stop it, okay? Your exception does not prove your systemic bias, okay? You may have an exception for a person here or there. Let's go to Michael. What are your thoughts, brother?
Well, first of all, I mean, one of the most basic parts of policing is an eyewitness account.
Yeah.
But when that eyewitness account doesn't, fit in with their narrative, with their built-in bias, then that all of a sudden doesn't matter. If it had been reversed, if it was black and white, and there was an eyewitness there saying, oh, he did it, he did it, he did it. I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you for pretty sure that they would have accepted that eyewitness account. But for some reason, they're discounting everything that this woman is saying so passionately and so believably. And certainly that's what their job is, to listen to the people that were there. They weren't there. And that's also a big part of this story.
Very well said. Let me do something a little different. Put up the picture of this next creep. Put up the picture of this pastor. That's the only screenshot we can get of him, okay? This pastor raped a little girl, okay? There's no dispute about that whatsoever. Alabama pastor who molested a girl that he later married has been placed on unsupervised probation. Jason Greathouse would have been charged with rape and facing 20 years in prison, but he married his victim to avoid all of that. Not only was he a pastor, he was a youth pastor at the time of this. The case was set to go to trial, but his attorney and the prosecutor crafted a plea deal, and the plea deal allowed him to go free, suspended 1-year sentence, and unsupervised damn probation. There's a lot of background to this, so let me give it to you. In 2008, this guy, this SOB named Greathouse, then 24, moved into a home where Ashley Pereira, that's her current name, lived with her family. She was 14. She and Greathouse, her youth minister, began what is termed as a consensual relationship. However, we all know that that is under the age of consent, okay? She became pregnant and her family forced them to marry. That's according to her. That union faltered, and by 2009, the couple had divorced. Not until 2020 did Pereira, who has built a life in Tennessee, formally accuse her husband of rape. Everybody knows the guy's guilty. It's a serious felony. An adult having sex with a person under 16, that's your state law. However, the fact that she married him, according to the prosecutor, created some significant complication. had a jury not convicted Greathouse, he would have walked away without consequences. Instead, he pleaded guilty to contributing to the delinquency of a minor, a misdemeanor, and received a 1-year suspended sentence and probation. You know what that means? That means he's supposed to at least go to jail for 1 year based on the plea deal, but they suspended the 1 year. That's what that means. I really feel that he should be on the sex offender list, she said of her ex-husband, both as a punishment for what occurred 15 years ago and to protect young girls who may have come in contact with Greathouse. Okay, let's put up a picture of this young lady. She was a victim. And listen, I know people are going to hit me up on social media and say, well, she didn't have to marry him. She was a child. Or why did she wait this long? I don't give a damn how long she waited. She was a victim. Please don't allow yourself to get lost in the fact that she was 14 years old when all of this happened. I don't care if she's 60 today. She was a victim and he's a monster. See how that works? Okay. Besides telling her story, she also started a GoFundMe campaign with the goal of raising $20,000 for an upcoming legal battle. Title is Justice for Ashley Pereira. Michael, am I calling this wrong, brother?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, the notion that the prosecutor said, well, she married her and that married him and that complicates things. Why is there an age of consent for marriage, but there's not one for having sex with somebody? And that's the whole muddied argument here. It's a terrible legal argument. It's unbelievable that it went as far as it did. But this is rape. And there's nothing wrong with going back and telling it like it was, and that's what it was. And also her family, who I don't know and don't seem to be part of this conversation, allowed this to happen. As a matter of fact, forced them into marriage, it seemed, which is another conversation entirely. But no, this is about consent, and you don't have the consent at 14 to do anything like that.
Very well said. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years, believing that it was actual berries. Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. Yeah. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time. Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
What Donald Trump has done as president has cut taxes for the wealthy and made life better for rich people. But he's made life worse for poor people.
We're making America great again by throwing more money at the military to destroy other countries because that makes us great instead of investing it in ourselves.
That it's Donald Trump and it's Stephen Miller. The choosing is based on wanting to create cruel and inhumane conditions to scare other people away from ever coming to the United States.
The opportunity to make money off of tragedy is the American way.
There is only one place to put garbage people: in the trash.
We've never had so much access to so much information with so little idea of what the hell is going on.
What does enforcing our borders have to do with traumatizing children? Absolutely nothing.
I think a sane person could say the current situation we have right now is radical. But what we're doing is literally making the world more like hell. That's a warning sign.
ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I've seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he was the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're going to win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com.
We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hartson.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
All right, welcome back. I got a lot of comments to read. Before I get to those comments, let me remind everyone, Indisputable is on podcast, okay? Wherever you get your podcast from, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Acast. Search for Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Click follow and rate us 5 stars if you enjoy the programming, okay? Also, this is a biggie. Anna and Jank, the Young Turks, they have Anita freaking Hill. Yeah, the Anita Hill. Honestly, I was talking to my producers. I said, wait a minute, is there another Anita Hill I'm not aware of? Lawyer, scholar, educator, and author Anita Hill. She doesn't do a lot of these interviews. This is gold, okay? She doesn't do a whole lot of this. So we're thankful to have her on the network. Don't forget, tune in, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, tyt.com/live or on YouTube, okay? The petition, let me say thank you to everyone who signed the petition in support of Ms. Shantel Arnold. Ms. Shantel Arnold, who was physically assaulted by a deputy sheriff in Jefferson Parish. We wanted the name of the cop exposed. That did happen. We wanted some other things that have not happened. We wanted him to be criminally charged. The officer is Julio Alvarado. The sheriff is Joseph P. Lopinto III. We are able to continue. We will continue following this story until there is a charge. But thank you so much for those signatures. Also, big announcement. This is huge because you get to be involved, all right? TYT is looking for new video content creators for Rebel HQ. We're looking for people to write, produce, host, and edit short form editorial videos on breaking news and political stories with a progressive point of view. If you are interested, right now, go to tyt.com/careers. tyt.com/careers to find out more and how to apply to be considered. Check out Rebel HQ on YouTube and Facebook to see what the current videos are like. Adrian Lawrence, David Schuster, and more are already there, all right? So check it out, apply. We would love to have you on board. And let me give a big shout out. Oh, this blessed me so much. It really did, okay? Grandma Sunshine Dragon emailed me and mentioned how she purchased the I Wish a Karen Would t-shirt, right? For her 15-year-old grandson. Well, he was out of school, I think the latter part of the week, last week, so he had to wait until today in order to wear it, all right? He loves the segments. His name is Xander. And can we show a picture of Xander? Look at Xander. Now, damn it, I'm not a prophet, but I think you're looking at the next president of the United States. I have it in my bones, I feel it, okay? Thank you so much, Xander, for being an amazing person and for being an amazing leader. And to your grandmother, we need more people in the world like you. Thank you for the support. All right, let me read some of these comments. We got a lot. TYT member, Starshine Song Dragon, I don't care what his side of the story is. There is no side of any story that could legitimize treating a child that way. And it's insane that you would even say that, as if this was mutual combat. As if two adults were arguing in a bar and a fight broke out and I need to tell my side of the story because I'm the villain in the narrative. What other side of the story is it other than you saying, listen, I'm sorry, I'm a lifelong educator and I lost control and I'm sorry. That's the only response you really need at this point, or not say anything at all. Eric the Red, notice how relieved he was. We're talking about the black man who was being arrested. Notice how relieved he was to hear someone speak up for him. He must have been in hell fearing the worst. Yes, of course. All right, I'm gonna try rabbit hole diving. I like that. All right, victims often take years to disclose their abuse when children. Do not blame the victims, folks. She had no voice and is brave to now speak. Exactly, very well said. YouTube, super chat. Blue Feather says, a day without Dr. Richie is like a broken pencil. It's pointless. We love you, Dr. Richie. I love you back. And I love the corny joke and all. I get it, I love it. It was nice, thank you. Kaza, no teacher in a position of authority has any right to put his hands on a child. Yep, night raid. Those teachers that stood around and did nothing should be fired. Yep, Bernard the Kiwi Dragon. Nothing can excuse his actions. More of the story will not change that. Nope. Indigenous, yep. All right, Anissa Cameron, I hope I said that right. Dear people who want to be an ally for BLM, this is what you should do. Night raid. That's racist policing in America. They detained the victim and allowed the perpetrators to go. That's right. Nisha, 1238. She was forced to marry. Yep. All right, Twitch. Glitteriest Lady Dread. Glad you are here, Doc. We missed you and hope you feel better soon. I feel so much better. All right, I feel A1. I feel so good, as a matter of fact. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You're the one with the Christ thing on your car, you dumbass! You, man! You impotent piece of shit! I hope your kids get cancer! What are you looking at? Yeah, no! Pinche madre! What are you filming me, you sick? Is that funny to you?
I thought I would bring a little levity to the situation of our Karen coverage on Indisputable. Now, you would look at this and say, this is just road rage. No. You have to look closer here, okay? Road rage would normally simply have rage to the individual on the road that has done something adverse to you. That is road rage. But then to take that rage and start using it like a bazooka to everybody around you, it's Karen rage. See the difference? Okay. Michael, you had to get a kick out of this one, man. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I like that there are now subcategories of Karen, right? So there's, yeah, and this is, I mean, look, that was a pretty ugly thing to say when you say, I wish your kids would get cancer. And this, we're just talking about some little traffic incident. And then she realizes how foolish she is because the person to her right is looking at her, and then she notices the person filming her. It is, it keeps happening, and it is what it is, man. That's crazy stuff.
It's wild, man. All right, to a more serious story, okay? There's a black male, he's in a dog park. He's walking his dog, and here's a guy who has no authority. He's a security guard, but he's off duty. He's not even working. He has a gun on him. He's not the police. Here's the first exchange.
And you gotta call why? Because I'm out here with my dog.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad you're doing that. I'll call a zone car, we can make this easy.
You don't gotta worry about it, I'm about to leave.
No, you ain't leaving yet.
Why can't I leave?
Because I'm detaining you right now.
For what?
For criminal trespass, because you don't live here.
So how's it criminal? I live right here. I can
you don't
bring
live
my
right
dog.
here. You don't live on this property.
Oh.
Okay, this is criminal trespass. You were over here the other day, and you made some comments to some people because they made a comment about you beating your dog.
I never beat my dog.
Well, I don't care about that because that didn't happen on our property. Wait a minute, you're not leaving. I just said you're being detained right now.
Well, you did say I was being detained. Excuse me, sir. You're touching me.
That's right.
Why are you touching me? You can't touch me.
I'm detaining you right now.
Why are you detaining me?
For criminal trespass.
You see this? Come on, Ziggy. Let's go.
You're not going anywhere right now.
Yes, I am, bro.
So you can leave if you want to, but I'll just pick you up at your house.
You can't pick me up in my house because I ain't did nothing wrong.
I have more video. It actually escalates even more insane than what you see, okay? This happened last Thursday. A series of videos were uploaded by a rap artist named Young J.O. This was an off-duty security guard at a dog park located in the Bells Bluff apartments. Once again, this is in Nashville, okay? Let me now take you to the second video. Here it is.
Sir, you can't tell me I'm criminal trespassing if this is my first time being here and no one's ever told me not to come here. That's not trespassing. Trespassing is on car to.
What I said, I'm gonna you gonna drop you. All right, now chill out and we can handle this.
No, you're not gonna talk to me like that. I didn't bother you.
You've been up here once.
I did not bother you. I didn't harass nobody. I didn't harass nobody.
Like I said, you can make this easy, or you can
associated. What, man? You better get away from me, bro. What I tell you, sir? Sir, don't touch me. Why are you touching me?
Don't walk up on me.
Why are you touching me?
I'm
trying to exit.
No, you're not going. You're being detained.
You're not a police officer. You can't detain me.
Doesn't matter what you're not touching me. I'll tell you what. Get down.
You're pointing a gun at me.
I ain't you right. Get down.
If you heard, the young man said, associated what? Well, this guy works for Associated Protective Services. His name is Christopher Wall. Let's put up a picture of Christopher Wall. There he is. Christopher Wall. Top flight security. Associated Protective Services, off duty, by the way. Okay, you're never off duty at Associated. Anyway, let me stop. He decided to engage in this extreme manner with a young black male at a dog park. Let me read to you the statement from the security company he works for. Let's put that statement up. Associated Protective Services Post said, and I quote, late this afternoon, our staff was made aware of an altercation that occurred between an off-duty employee of Associated Protective Service and a nearby resident located at Bells Bluff apartment complex. Our team has made contact with the management company for the apartment complex, as well as the Metro Nashville Police Department to gather additional details about what happened and what may have led up to this incident. While this individual is not being paid by our company at the time of the incident, we take any allegations of misconduct seriously. Mr. Wall has been placed on administrative leave until the investigation is complete. Okay? Michael, once again, extreme bias, systemic racism. You see all of it happening inside of one person, one scene.
It all comes, I mean, this is sort of related to the Central Park bird watcher in its own. Right, I mean, you're out enjoying nature with your dogs, and oh my God, why is there this black person where I ordinarily go? That's how I read it. It may not be as cut and dried as that, but certainly when you see these biases, and I had to chuckle when you almost went to say, you're never off duty at Associated Protective Services, but he is in fact off duty now, and this is the taking the gun out and this feeling of superiority that just overcomes people is inexplicable, and that's what you see at play here. And it is systemic. I mean, that is it's the best word for it. I know it's overused, but it's true.
It was a tongue-in-cheek remark when I talked about never off duty at Associated. But here's what truly is not off duty: bigotry, racism. It's a 24-hour-a-day thing. And it's truly a team sport. Racism is a team sport. And these systems, and now we're talking about a security officer who works for an industry. That's a security industry, right? So his implicit bias or hyper-aggressive bias plays out in a way where he's a representative of the system, of the institution of being a security officer. And thankfully, this person, this rapper had the wherewithal to do what? To record, and he recorded the entire exchange. And now we have the video rather than just his word. We have the video of what happened, and naturally Associated Protective Services, they have completely thrown their security guard under the bus in their statement. We will follow this story and give you an update. Go ahead.
One thing to add, Rashad, to what you were saying is that it's not like if he were on duty, he just shuts this off, right? So this whole idea that he wasn't on duty is really, it's an excuse. But I'm sure when he punches in for his next shift, he doesn't leave that behind. It informs him everything he does every day.
And what's interesting, you make a great point. He was probably more reserved because he was off duty. If he was on duty, imagine what would have happened in that situation. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
Gee, I wonder why we didn't get $15 minimum wage.
Because they're all raising money from the guys who don't want to increase the minimum wage.
And we play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The Republicans say we will serve our corporate masters at all costs, including killing democracy, yet here we are. Where else do you hear that? You hear that on NBC, on ABC, on CBS? You hear it nowhere.
They don't want to talk about money in politics because it's really hard to pass judgment when your media organization is funded by fossil fuel companies.
The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, the defense contractors, the Wall Street, or the big pharma. And we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed.
The president labeled him a son of a bitch.
I don't think it's good to be a distraction to your team.
To stand proudly for the national anthem.
You know, some of these people need to move to another country.
Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
The president is put in place to amplify the racists in this country.
Black men and boys are killed at an exponentially higher rate than white men and boys, as outlined by PBS. Black people are most likely to be killed by police, found mappingpoliceviolence.org. Personally, my biggest gripe is not seeing how sports and politics have been attached at the hip. From the jockey syndrome, to the Negro Leagues, to Tommy Smith and John Carlos, Muhammad Ali, to modern day and everything in between. This is not an escape. It is a reflection of reality and a reflection of the times.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let's get to it right away. TYT member Derek says, "Oh my God, I watch those. I watch this one whenever I need a good laugh." All right, worst case scenario, Dragon. Oh dear, I have been that mad in traffic a lot. Well, damn. Greyhound Dragon about the off-duty security guard. This guy is a rent-a-cop and has this attitude, unreal. And he wasn't even being rented at that moment. That's what really makes it unreal. YouTube super chat, Magic Osis. She should be voicing a Muppet, talking about the Karen. The remixtress, she sounds like Karen from Will and Grace. Off-duty security guard, okay. Rhett Proctor says, another wannabe cop who also happens to be a Ken. Nicolette Horates says, security equals rent-a-cop. A quote from a prominent black Portland leader activist, Max Smith. 2. Austin Crafton, this dude brought a literal gun. Twitch. Mary Animal says she's gonna break her windshield with that voice if she's not careful. Yeah. Karam Dio Girl, I think. She sounds like a character from Fraggle Rock. Mike Boy Raps, I love how as always, why are you filming? Like, look at yourself. All right, It's Just Vegas says, he thinks he is tough with that gun on his hip. Yep. All right, is it Kensai Immortal? This man needs to lose his right to own a firearm as well as his job. He's shown he shouldn't have a gun. Agreed. Okay. Let's put up a picture of a guy who says he's the new Rosa Parks. Let's put his picture up. You see that fella? He's a congressional candidate, alleged QAnon founder, calls himself the digital Rosa Parks, and received a round of applause from members of the GOP as well as elected officials. Here's the video.
What you have to know is that we are living now
through a modern digital civil rights movement. And you could call me the new Rosa Parks, because I've been out there, I've been getting canceled left and right over the past few years. I've been on the front lines fighting so you guys can have a voice. And you might say, oh, why? Why is Ron the new digital Rosa Parks? Well, I want to get on the bus. I want to get on the Twitter bus. I want to get on the Google bus. I want to get on the Facebook bus. I want to get on the Chase Bank bus. We have all been kicked off the bus.
I will not be calling you the new Rosa Parks, sir. That will not be happening. This is Ron Watkins. This was at a speech. It's a damn shame. For God and country. That was the name of the speech. Patriot Double Down. This was a QAnon convention in Las Vegas. Okay, let's put up a picture of Ron Watkins again. The self-proclaimed new Rosa Parks. Now here's what's interesting about them identifying themselves, connecting to actual civil rights leaders. They will make this connection and get a round of applause, but are antithetical to everything these leaders actually represented. They don't believe systemic racism is real. These leaders did. They don't believe that you have to deconstruct white supremacy. These leaders did believe in deconstructing white supremacy. They believe that somehow we have arrived to where we don't need to talk about race anymore. No real civil rights leader believes that. And that's real, okay? So let me give you some background to this guy. He's been banned from Twitter following January 6th riots. He has built a significant following. It is worth noting that sitting members of the Arizona GOP were in attendance, okay? Sitting Republican lawmakers and Secretary of State candidates endorsed by former President Donald Trump were also listed as attending the QAnon convention. All the Republicans who are listed as attending the event have shared baseless claims that widespread voter fraud denied Trump victory in the 2020 presidential election. The rest of Watkins' speech was littered with usual false claims of that. And during that same speech, he doubled down on his run for Congress. Earlier this month, Watkins announced his intention to run as a congressional candidate for Arizona and repeated baseless claims of widespread voter fraud in a video shared on Telegram, okay? The run is for the Arizona seat in the US House of Representatives. This is going to be quite interesting because he has fans. Nobody is really on the right criticizing him for this ridiculous comparison that he is the new Rosa Parks. Let me take personal offense to what Mr. Watkins has said, okay? Let me tell you why that's so offensive. The movement was about equality and equity, okay? It was about basic freedoms, more than just mobility, more than just the freedom to move around, but the freedom to engage in equitable enterprises, okay? This is not what you believe in, Mr. Watkins. You believe exactly the opposite. You are contrary to the sentiment of those who worked, who fought, who were beaten, and who died in order to make a way for Black Americans. You are adversarial to that notion. But people like Mr. Watkins are ready and willing to co-opt the movement for their own personal agenda and their political narrative, while at the same time denying the substance of the movement and why it was necessary. Michael, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, first of all, ironic that they talk about Rosa Parks and then they say sitting members of the Republican Party were all there. But I think that, I mean, you said it perfectly. This person is Rosa Parks was denied a seat on the bus for absolutely no reason other than the color of her skin. This person was kicked off of all of these platforms for multiple reasons. I mean, for multiple offenses, and because it was a message of hate. I'd love to see him go to Cleveland Avenue, Montgomery, Alabama, and with a megaphone, which is now, by the way, Rosa Parks Avenue, was renamed, with a megaphone saying that he's the next Rosa Parks. It's offensive, it's a joke, and the people that are supporting him obviously are as deluded as this guy is, and he will not be in Congress, nor will he be laying in state as Rosa Parks did in the hall. So.
Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement promoted a message of peace and love, while he was kicked off of social media for promoting hate and violence. You do not have a more direct contrast, okay? It's a damn shame. All right, let me tell you something else that's shameful. Put up the picture of this cop who's now under investigation by the federal government because they say he's dirty as hell and has been framing people for years. Retired Kansas detective accused of preying on vulnerable black women for decades, framing a man for slaying, is finally being investigated by the feds. Federal prosecutors are investigating a retired detective following a lot of allegations. His name is Roger Golubsky. I want you to remember that name. Allegations have circled a Kansas City neighborhood where Detective Golubsky worked for 35 years. But they only recently came to the forefront following the exoneration of one wrongfully accused black man, Lamont McIntyre. McIntyre's mother, Rose, alleged Detective Golubsky sexually assaulted her in the late 1980s and then framed her son for the murders when she rejected his advances. After being incarcerated for 23 years, Mr. McIntyre was freed in 2017. Here's a picture of the young man. This brother had 23 years of his life taken away from him because of a dirty ass cop. Many witnesses in the civil case described Detective Golubsky as a corrupted cop. One witness alleged the retired detective had an affinity for black prostitutes and used his badge for sex and information. One of the officers testified about walking in on Golubsky having sex with a woman at the police station. The lawsuit also accused Golubsky of taking drugs and money from a local drug kingpin for his silence, to then use them to exploit prostitutes. Since Lamont McIntyre's release, the Kansas Star's editorial board has lobbied for action against this corrupt former detective. One columnist wrote, he was the common denominator in the unsolved murders of 6 black women. The newspaper has chronicled decades of rape allegations against Golubsky. Now, this man was able to provide this level of chaos and crime for 35 years. What do you think protected him? You think it's just his badge? Imagine a black cop being able to do this for 35 years in a white neighborhood. You think that would have worked? So it's not just his badge. It's not just the system. It's all of that working with the complexion of protection, his white privilege. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would push back on it because it's so exceptionally atrocious and horrible what he's doing, that I don't even think it's a question of would a black cop have gotten away with this in a white neighborhood? No, but nobody should get away with what the disgusting things that this guy got away with. And it is good that they're going back and looking at this. I was initially going to say, when I was first started reading it earlier, was that he should get at least 23 years. Now he should be gone for the rest of his life. I mean, what he had done, exploiting these people, ruining a man's life, taking 23 years away from him, and then being complicit in the murders, perhaps, of 6 prostitutes, 6 African-American women. It's mind-boggling. This is one of the worst crimes, and the violation of trust. It's hideous.
This guy may be a serial rapist and serial murderer all wrapped up into one. We will follow this story. Okay, I always thought, I said, what would happen if you put a Karen in the middle of a neighborhood and just let her go at it? And listen, we found out. Here it is.
You can take a gun, shoot somebody in the face. It's not hard. Sometimes it might even be fun if they're a godless commie.
Now, what they're trying to do is sneak the COVID vaccine in your salads.
I hate math. Somebody say amen.
Keep it on this the whole time. Shut your mouth. And I'll tell you right now, I'm a mother now. If my kids are here, I will.
Trista, you're not even in this. You're like 18 doors up.
He's serving you, everybody! Is she not yelling at me?
I know, my honey. I can't help your mom's a crazy bitch.
Do you want to go there? Because I tell you right now, I don't give a thing. No goddamn video.
That's all right.
I'm telling you right now. Talk to my kids again. Talk to them again.
Well, we found out. Michael, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I needed subtitles for that. I couldn't understand the thing that anybody was saying, other than there was this crazy rage in the neighborhood there. But I mean, it's perfect for the title of that segment. Absolutely.
Yeah, what in the red state hell? But once again, we have been able to see a Karen in her natural environment, being at home in her neighborhood, and what happens. I've never been in a neighborhood like this, and I thought it was really interesting when one of the neighbors said, "You're 18 doors down. You're not even into this. You're not even in this." But damn, it sounded like she was next door. I mean, she really had some octaves on her, right?
Right. Yeah, no question. I mean, you never see a Karen in the Karen's den, and that's what. That's an important perspective.
My brother, always good having you and your perspective on Indisputable. Tell people how they can follow you, man.
Well, at Michael Schur on Twitter. I report for the Young Turks and for News Nation at newsnationnow.com. And I'll see you on the road pretty soon. And I can't wait to come back on the show, Dr. Rich.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
All right. We got more on the other side. The bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day. We looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone. 15 billion views.
Damn.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Rob Shively, what do you know? Rob says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me, or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Jenkins Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug, I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging, watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right? Wow, man. I can see the voice.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted.
Okay. Speaking of shirts.
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shopdyrt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
Welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Before I go to the comments, let me remind you, we are on podcast, okay? So anywhere you get your podcast, you can get Indisputable. You can get it every day. Fresh content every day. Binge on the bullpen if you can handle it, all right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Acast. Make sure you search for Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Click follow and rate us 5 if you enjoy the programming. Also, lawyer, scholar, educator, and author Anita Hill will join the Young Turks today to discuss her new book and more. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, tyt.com/live or on YouTube, okay? Big announcement. This is huge. You can join the TYT Network team, all right? So TYT is looking for new video content creators for Rebel HQ. We are looking for people to write, produce, host, and edit short form editorial videos on breaking news and political stories with a progressive point of view. If you're interested, real simple, go to tyt.com/careers. All right, I have a recommendation for you. Before you do that, make sure you visit Rebel HQ on YouTube or Facebook and see exactly how that format works, okay? All right, let's go to the comments. Mickey C, the Silver-Haired Dragon. So now every arrest he's made in the last 35 years must be investigated, right? Each and every one is suspect. Will they dare go that far? And they listen, they have to. They have to. And it is their fault for allowing a person like this to permeate in their culture of policing. He was not a secret. Everyone knew the guy was dirty. Wasn't a secret at all. Lend me a quarter for the change, Ma. I see, man, I don't know, it cut off. Okay, sorry about that. I see this type of scene happening more and more often in America. Yeah, YouTube super chat. It's comical how the right wing popularized railing on the left for playing the victim. That's a hell of a point. Rain, it's disgusting for him to make that comparison. That's right. Kinky Streets, how do you live or sleep at night when you put an innocent person in jail? Yep. Aaron, I think it's Okinos. Court should make the cop pay privately from his wealth and pension to this wrongfully accused person, wealth over 20 years. Into the Karen verse. Everybody out on your porch and yell. That's 02. Ricardo Chucky says, she runs like Marvin the Martian. That's so wrong, Ricardo. Dragon Slayer, Slayer Dragon. Running around yelling at each other is probably good exercise for those folks. Bernie Kiwi Dragon. The only thing missing from that video is narration provided by David Attenborough. Twitch, bread and toast. Telegram has video. I thought that site was held together with thoughts, prayers, and Scotch tape. That was good, that was funny. Donkey Teeth Beatles. I'm surprised he didn't compare himself to Dr. King and say he had a dream that someday he'd be reinstated to Twitter. That may be the next speech, just so you know. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. Is back. In the bullpen, we have Mr. Rick Green, founder of PatriotAcademy.com. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment and original intent of the framers of the US Constitution. Rick, good to have you back on the show. How are you?
Hey, Dr. Ritchie, it's I'm always grateful to be with you, man. I feel like we're living out Proverbs 27, sharpening each other's countenance a little bit, like iron sharpens iron. Anyway, I love being with you, man. Thanks for having me back.
Iron sharpens iron, brother. That's what it says. Thank you so much for being on the show. Okay, I don't want to presume what you know or believe about the Second Amendment. So give me your sentiment for the Second Amendment and your belief about the original intent.
Yeah, and not so much my belief as much as what they said themselves. Basically, two major components to the Second Amendment, or two societal benefits, I should say, both found in the laws of nature and nature's God. The way the founders put it, it was, quote, the first law of nature. So it was this innate ability to defend yourself in the moment, to prevent harm to yourself and your family, but then also to prevent a tyrannical government. So you got guys like John Adams on the first one saying resistance to sudden violence. So for us today, somebody attacks you, the ability to fight back, to protect your wife, your child, yourself, your property, as he said, life, limb, and property, vitally important. Not only is that a law of nature that every human being has, but for us as Americans, we're lucky because it's in our Constitution to guarantee and protect that right. So anytime government infringes on your right to keep and bear arms so you can defend yourself, not only unconstitutional, violates the laws of nature and nature's God. That's number one, resistance to sudden violence. Number two, prevent government from becoming tyrannical. So I'll give you Joseph Story, one of the two fathers of American jurisprudence. He said this one, I love this word, is the palladium, the protector of all the liberties of a republic, because it offers a strong moral check against the arbitrary power and usurpation of that power by government, and allows the people to triumph over them. So basically, if we the people are armed, we can prevent government from becoming tyrannical and overcoming our lives and using power that we didn't give them.
That's a good argument, but let me push back on something.
Sure.
And maybe you already know this. What was the number one argument for why we needed to have an armed citizens rank? What was the argument they made?
Number one argument was what I just said, what they called the first law of nature. So Patrick Henry talked about every man should be armed with a rifle. Madison said this is an advantage that we have that the European nations don't have.
That's not true.
To defend. So of course, give me a quote that shows the difference.
Ron, I'm going to help you out here, and I want you to do a little research on this. I know you don't have time to do it right now. Those were arguments as well, but you had many arguments contained. The primary justification based on law and based on the legal or statutory reason why the states needed to have armed citizens was because they did not want to have a professional military. And their primary argument was, in order for us to never have a professional military, we will have a well-regulated militia, because no government would try to overtake citizens who are armed. But if we have soldiers, those soldiers can be used to do that. So we don't want soldiers. Did you forget that the primary argument, brother, was to stop the government from having professional soldiers?
I think that's partially right.
No, sir, I'm 100% right.
Here's where it's partially right. They definitely knew that you could not have military or police officer on every corner. That would be a police state. And so James Wilson, who signed both the Declaration and the Constitution and was an original Supreme Court justice, he said, look, every man's house is his castle. You have a responsibility as the commanding officer of your castle to be armed, to be ready to defend, to be able to grab that musket off the mantle and run out and defend the community as well. So they didn't want a police state. And I think that's really what you're saying. So I don't know that I disagree with you on this. I think that they both, all of these roads we just talked about, all lead to the same place.
But don't you find it interesting, my brother? And thank you for saying you agree with me, because I am right. Don't you find it quite interesting that when we debate and when we have argumentation in relationship to the Second Amendment of the US Constitution, that for some reason you guys on the right tend to leave out the primary justification for the well-regulated militia, which was in order to stop the creation of an actual professional military. You all leave that completely off the table, but that was part of the original design of the framers of the Constitution and the intent of the framers of the Constitution. So we have already left the intent of their original sentiment.
Yeah, first of all, you're not aware of my teachings probably, but I once a month I take hundreds of people out and we do what's called a constitutional defense course, and I teach exactly what you just talked about. So we don't leave it out. I think we're just probably differing a little bit on the terminology. But the principle is the same. The principle is this: that the people are responsible for being armed and able to defend themselves and defend the community in the moment. You don't want that responsibility to be the government's, because if it is, then they can make you do whatever they want. They can turn the whole nation into a place of tyranny. So I think we actually agree on this principle here.
Okay, do you think the right to bear arms is a legal right, meaning constitutional in the way I'm using it, or is it a God-given right? Which one?
I think it's first a God-given right, and I think that's clearly what the founder said, that these are rights given by God.
At what age does God give you the right to own and bear arms? What age?
Well, Richard Henry Lee, signer of the Declaration, the guy that made the motion for independence, said we ought to be teaching our kids while young how to defend themselves and how to use firearms. So,
but brother, answer that question, because if you're saying that it is a God-given right, you would be saying it is a natural right, which is given to you upon being born. You actually do have some constitutional rights that are natural rights, and they are bestowed upon you at birth, such as your right to due process. You cannot deprive even a child without a due process remedy. So you have that right when you're born. You do not have the right to bear arms when you are born, which would suggest that it is not in fact a God-given or natural right, correct?
No, I would disagree with that. I think you do have a right to bear arms at any age. My boys bear arms on our ranch all the time to be able to fight off snakes or.
Come on, Rick.
Well, no, in my case, I had them carrying and well trained. By 12, they were better trained than most law enforcement officers in America.
But they weren't born with it, though, right? A 2-year-old should not bear arms.
Well, are we discussing the training or are we discussing the right, the natural ability to defend? Remember, the right is not even just for a firearm, it's the right to defend. The right is self-defense, to be able to fight back. So I think that right is innate from any age. Society,
so it's not the right to bear arms. Listen, everybody agrees, brother, you have the right to defend yourself if somebody tries to attack you or somebody you love. People say, okay, listen, anybody can have the right to defend themselves. That's natural, right? But the right to bear arms is not a natural right. I've heard this argument before. If it was a natural right, you all would be fighting for constitutional amendments and statutory interpretation that would allow children to bear arms. As a matter of fact, the Constitution is silent about the age, and states have been allowed to statutorily interpret what age do you mature into the right. So
yeah, but what you're doing is you're mixing the right of self-defense with one of the means for self-defense. In other words, the right to keep and bear arms is the means to be able to defend your family. And what our founders knew was that the firearm is the great equalizer, and therefore that is the thing that the Constitution guarantees.
Okay, let's talk about how states have interpreted the right to bear arms. I don't like the terminology gun control. You all did something amazing in the messaging arena when you start saying gun control, because it scared the hell out of a lot of people in America. Well, the truth is every constitutional right has a statutory responsibility. You have the freedom of speech. You have the right to say what you want to say without the government infringing upon that right. You and I agree on that right, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and you basically have that right, and the government cannot come in and say, hey, we're now going to penalize you because you said something we disagree with. Okay, however, if you say something that leads to the injury of another person, for example, yelling fire in a crowded building, there's no fire, there's a stampede, you can be charged with a crime. Your speech has a statutory limitation once it starts to infringe on the life and liberty of somebody else. We don't call that speech control, do we?
Well, we would if you did it before the person was able to speak. In other words, what you're talking about is a punishment after the fact when you've abused the right of free speech. I'm fine with punishment for someone that abuses their right to keep and bear arms. If you're gonna now tell me that you have the right to prevent me from keeping and bearing those arms based on your definition of when I need to be able to keep and bear arms, now you are in fact infringing upon that right and that self-defense because you're doing it before the act.
You know, I'm glad you made that point. So let me offer this as a rebuttal, okay? The freedom of speech, you're saying it's cool to take that away or penalize you if you engage in that freedom and you are irresponsible with that engagement. You're
like libel or slander, right? I mean, if you defame someone, there's legal remedies to come in.
Right, that's a civil offense, correct? Yeah. So the right to bear arms, you think that right is absolute?
Well, it depends on what you mean by absolute. I'll give you St. George Tucker, one of our founding fathers that's known as the Blackstone, the American Blackstone, because he took Blackstone's commentaries and applied them to American law. He said, if you infringe on the right to keep and bear arms under any color or pretext whatsoever, liberty is, if not already annihilated, is on the brink of destruction. Here's what that means. when you start deciding as government where I can carry my firearm, where I can carry my handgun to defend myself, you put me in danger. So if I'm in the Walmart or I'm in the restaurant or I'm at the school or wherever it is, and you've prevented me from having my firearm because you think it's not safe for that firearm to be there, and then my daughter's raped or I'm harmed or my family is harmed, government has actually created that arm. So yeah, I would say the right to keep and bear arms and always have my firearm with me is absolute. Now, not to be able to go on your property. If you have private property, I think you ought to be able to say no in terms of what I can carry. But in terms of my freedom to move about the country and always be able to defend my family, I wouldn't want your children or your family to not be defended in any particular place. Neither should mine.
I believe in common sense gun laws. All right, I just believe in common sense.
Example of that. Give me
a common sense gun law would be you don't have the right to bear an arm that could kill 20, 30 people at one time. I think there should be restrictions to particular weaponry. I don't believe that the debate has been fully vetted as far as politics as well as social progression in America. I also believe that, let me finish. I also believe that individuals
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who are mentally ill, they have a mental health diagnosis, they have committed certain criminal offenses. I don't think they should have the absolute right to bear an arm. I don't think so. Yeah. But let me ask you this question, because Texas did something interesting. They're the largest state to do it. You can, have a gun, no need for a permit, no need for a license, right? You have this right to carry rule. Are you in agreement with the Texas rule for carrying guns?
Absolutely, 100%, and here's why. And I will point out that you said that when that passed, we would have absolute chaos and mayhem, I think was the word that you used. That has not happened. It has not happened in any state that has passed constitutional carry. It allows law-abiding citizens to be able to defend themselves, so it's actually helped in all of the states that has been passed. But here's the fundamental difference in what we're saying. When you say that you don't think you should be able to have a firearm that could kill 20 or 30 people at a time. See, here's the fundamental difference. Okay. If you understand self-defense, then you know that those types of weapons are out there and criminals have them, and therefore the law-abiding citizen must have them. This is why Stephen Williford was able to save 27 lives at Sutherland Springs. The bad guy had weapons like that. Stephen Williford was able to use an AR-15 to stop him and save lives. And Joe Biden said that not the bad guy, Stephen Williford, should not have been allowed to have that AR-15. So we're gonna let the other 27 people die because we don't want the law-abiding trained citizen to be able to stop that crime.
That's interesting because literally that's a microcosm and it does not explain the macrocosm of how it happens the other way. When you have stockpiles of weapons, when you have ammunition up to the hundreds of thousands, these individuals are typically planning. You see the federal government raiding a compound with all of these weapons, and they're not planning something good, brother. They're planning something bad. But let me take you back.
But those are so few. Those are such a small percentage of the crime in America.
Anyway. What you just described happens in less than 1% of the time. So you can't talk to me about percentages. But let me take you back.
Right.
Let me take you to Texas because I have limited time.
Hey, look, you could take my 1911.
I have limited time, brother.
With 10 rounds could be used with 3 magazines to kill 20 or 30 people.
So now we into whataboutism, which I don't engage in.
It's the human being, it's not the weapon. See, you're placing the blame on
a brother.
I
got you. So Rick, you like the Texas law.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which is called constitutional carry. Right. And the idea behind constitutional carry is that because bearing arms is a right, you should not be forced to provide any license to say you have this right. You should not be compelled based on the statute to present a permit that you have this right. So you believe in constitutional carry. That's fine. You believe in that for guns.
What you just described is essentially innocent until proven guilty as well, right? It's the idea that I shouldn't have to prove my rights to you. Those rights are inherent.
Okay, good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good, you shouldn't have to prove it. You believe you have the right to vote?
Of course, yeah.
You believe you have the right to vote? Should you have to present ID to exercise that right?
Absolutely.
Why? You don't have to present a license, ID, a permit to exercise your right to bear arms, but you need to present an ID to exercise your right to vote.
Here's the difference.
Okay.
Here's the difference. You're entitled to one vote, right? You get to vote once. And so therefore the system has to know that you are only voting once and that I'm only voting once and that I am the person casting that vote. I'm entitled to carry my firearm anywhere that I go. Now, listen, if I'm driving along on the road, and I break a law and the police officer pulls me over, should I have to show my ID to prove who I am driving that car? Absolutely.
You don't have a right to drive a car, brother. You have a right to vote, you have a right to bear arms. You have made the argument on this show that your right to bear arms is not only absolute, but it should not require any prerequisite presentation of an ID, a permit, or a license. However, in order to exercise your right to vote, you maintain the argument that in order to engage in that right, you must present an ID to participate, which by the way was unheard of 21 years ago in this country. Nobody had to present an ID to vote in this nation 21 years ago.
How far back you want to go? Because you used to have to walk up and ring the bell and vote for whoever you were voting for in front of everybody, and everybody knew who you were voting for, and you only got to cast one vote. I mean, I know we can agree on this. We can agree on the fact that every person should be able to vote, and they should only be able to vote once, and that we should know that they're only voting once. You and I both want a verified election.
Have you ever worked at an election?
Absolutely.
Have you ever worked one? Okay. Yeah. There are sophisticated systems that literally record when a person has voted. And even with the presentation of an ID, you can still vote more than one time and technically get away with it until after the election. So even with the presentation of the ID, people still have committed voter fraud. There's a case that just hit the news in Texas of a Republican, 61-year-old Republican who voted twice. And
shame on him or her, whoever that is. Let me try to get us back on.
The point is, brother, the ID did not make the difference.
Yeah.
The ID did not make the difference. That's the point.
Yeah, but it can, and it absolutely is necessary to be able to be sure that we're only having people vote once and verify. I mean, we all need verification.
You know what's necessary.
But you know what we really need? Look, let's try this quote. Frederick Douglass said that all of us have our rights protected in 3 boxes: the ballot box, the jury box, and guess what? The cartridge box. So we both want to have good voting. We both want to have good juries and not a 2-tier justice system. And we should both want Americans to be able to defend their family and prevent a tyrannical government from taking away our rights. I think we can agree on that, right?
Rick, you make a non-constitutional argument as it relates to the right to vote. Then you make a purely constitutional argument as it relates to the right to bear arms. Rick, think about this.
One person, one vote.
What you're talking about, does the Constitution require that you present ID to vote?
Does the Constitution require that you present an ID to vote? No.
Right. Okay. So you're making so that is a statutory argument.
Still must be able to prove that you only voted once.
Rick, think about what you're saying, brother. Literally, you do not have to present an ID to bear an arm, to bear a gun in your perfect world.
Now, I can be challenged on that. If I'm open carrying and a police officer is concerned, I can have to present ID to just to show.
Not according to the law, brother. Even in Georgia, a police officer can, if they see you with a gun, they cannot legally ask you for your permit.
If it depends on the situation. If
isn't that stupid?
What's going on in that situation?
Rick, come on, man, come with me on this. Isn't that silly?
These extreme examples. Let's stick to the principle.
That's not an extreme example. That's a current law in multiple states.
Can we agree on the right of self-defense? Do you want to be able to defend your family?
Of course, man. Everybody has the right to defend themselves. That's not the argument today.
A fan of the Second Amendment. That's how you do it. Hey, Rick, I invite you to come train with me. I'd love for you to come and be a part of our training. You should come.
Can I say something, Rick? Let me say something to that. Ain't no way in the hell I'm gonna be out in the wilderness with guns and your crew. Brother, that's just not happening.
We're not in the wilderness, we're in the desert when we do it.
Yeah, that's even worse. All right, Rick, I appreciate you being on Indisputable. Thank you, my friend, for always giving us 100% of what you believe in.
God bless you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. All right, don't forget the conversation. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.